Hello everyone and welcome back to Budi Network Academy. I am Budi and in today's video we are going to learn about another important concept in computer networking, the MAC address. We already learned that switches use MAC addresses to forward data, and in our previous episode we talked about IP addresses. So, what exactly is a MAC address and how does a switch use it? By the end of this video, you will understand what a MAC address is, how it is formatted, how it differs from an IP address, and how switches use MAC addresses to forward data. Let's get started. Imagine we have several computers connected to the same local network. These computers need to communicate with each other. But how does the network know which network interface should receive the data? This is where MAC addresses are important. A MAC address provides an identifier for a network interface and is used primarily for communication on the local network. For example, when a computer sends an Ethernet frame to another computer, the destination MAC address helps the network determine where that frame should go. In simple terms, MAC addresses help devices communicate on a local network. So, what exactly is a MAC address? A MAC address is an identifier associated with a network interface. For example, a MAC address can look like this: 00 colon, 1A colon, 2B colon, 3C colon, 4D colon, 5E. Your computer may have one MAC address for its Ethernet interface and another one for its Wi-Fi interface. A MAC address is used primarily when devices communicate within the same local network. So, when you hear the term MAC address, think of it as an identifier for a network interface on the local network. Now, let's look at the format of a MAC address. Here's an example: 00 colon, 1A colon, 2B colon, 3C colon, 4D colon, 5E. A commonly used MAC address is 48 bits, which is equal to 6 bytes. It is normally written as 6 groups, with each group containing 2 hexadecimal characters. For example, 00 colon, 1A colon, 2B colon, 3C colon, 4D colon, 5E. The numbers and letters you see here are hexadecimal. You may also see MAC addresses written with hyphens or without separators, depending on the operating system or network equipment. For now, the important thing to remember is that a typical MAC address is 48 bits and is written as 6 pairs of hexadecimal characters. Now, let's compare a MAC address with an IP address. We learned about IP addresses in our previous episode. A MAC address is associated with a network interface and is used primarily for communicate on the local network. An IP address is a logical address used for communication at the network layer and can be used to communicate between different networks. For example, a MAC address might look like 00 colon 1A colon 2B colon 3C colon 4D colon 5E, while an IPv4 address might look like 192.168.1.10. A simple way to remember this is MAC address, local network communication, IP address, communication between IP networks. Both are important, but they have different rules. Now let's see how a switch uses MAC addresses. Imagine computer A wants to send data to computer B. Computer A sends an Ethernet frame toward the switch. That frame contains a source MAC address and a destination MAC address. The switch looks at the destination MAC address and checks its MAC address table. The table tells the switch which port is associated with that MAC address. The switch can then forward the frame through the correct port toward computer B. This is one of the main reasons switches can efficiently deliver Ethernet traffic within a local network. MAC addresses are also involved in different types of Ethernet communication. The first is Unicast. Unicast means communication from one device to one specific destination. The second is broadcast. Broadcast means one device sends a frame to all devices within the local broadcast domain. And the third is multicast. Multicast means traffic is sent from one device to a specific group of devices that are interested in receiving it. So, in simple terms, unicast one-to-one, broadcast one to everyone on the local broadcast domain, multicast one to a selected group. These communication types are important concepts when learning how Ethernet networks work. MAC addresses are used in many different types of networks. At home, your computer, smartphone, smart TV, and other network interfaces can have MAC addresses. In an office, computers, printers, IP phones, and other devices use network interfaces with MAC addresses. In schools, MAC addresses are used by computers, access points, and other network devices. They are also used in Wi-Fi networks or in large environments such as data centers. So, whether you are using Ethernet or Wi-Fi, MAC addressing is an important part of local network communication. Let's put everything together with a simple example. We have computer A and computer B, both connected to the same switch. Computer A wants to send data to computer B. Computer A sends an Ethernet frame containing the destination MAC address of computer B. The switch receives the frame and looks at the destination MAC address. It checks its MAC address table to determine which port leads to computer B. The switch then forwards the frame through that port. Computer B receives the frame. So, in this simple example, the MAC address helps the switch identify the correct destination on the local network. Let's quickly review what we have learned today. First, a MAC address is an identifier associated with a network interface. We learned that a commonly used MAC address is 48 bits or 6 bytes and is normally written as 6 groups of hexadecimal characters. We compared MAC addresses and IP addresses and looked at their different rules. We also learned how a switch uses MAC addresses and its MAC address table to forward Ethernet frames. Finally, we introduced Unicast, broadcast, and multicast communication. Understanding MAC addresses is an important step toward understanding how switches and local networks work. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you now have a better understanding of what a MAC address is and how it is used in a local network. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment and subscribe to support Budi Network Academy. And here's today's question. Do you know the MAC address of your computer or phone? If you know how to find it, let me know in the comments. In our next episode, we will continue building our networking fundamentals with another important networking concept. Until then, learn, troubleshoot, connect. I am Budi and will see you in the next video.